Welcome. Take It Up with Jessica Lee. I'm here with David Saxon, who is the VP of Channel and Partnerships at Heap. Welcome, David.
Thank you.
I would like you to tell the audience what Heap does, please.
Yes, no worries. So Heap is a product analytics solution. We've been around for about 6 years. Just received our Series C financing for
Congratulations.
Yes, thank you. But we're here, we provide a solution really to kind of like the product managers to really provide them with kind of like the insights and the data and make it easy and accessible to kind of like glean information from kind of the products they're providing for their customers.
Right, like a lot of the SaaS software.
Yeah.
For example, I think E-Trade is a client of yours.
Yeah,
right?
that's right. E-Trade is a great example of that. You think about the product manager from E-Trade. When you log into that application and you're managing all your money, that asset or that product is owned by the product team over at E-Trade. And so that's valuable information to how people interact with that solution and that application.
Right.
That's feeding the product team to better understand kind of like insights of like, hey, how are they using these new features? You know, do I have some kind of analysis that I want to do quickly to understand kind of how people are interacting with the application.
Okay.
It's really to provide better experiences.
I think there are a few of this type of analytics product solutions out there. What makes your product different?
Yeah, the biggest thing about Heap is we have this whole solution of auto capture. Okay. So traditional analytics really are kind of, for the last 20 years, a lot of the analytic solutions are really based on kind of hard coding and tracking that you have to instrument into the application. So it makes it a lot more difficult for, any type of product updates and the development cycles you have to go in through and then the investment in time just to kind of get access to that data. And Heap really eliminates that. We have this concept of auto capture where we just drop JavaScript into the application and we automatically capture all the events and the tracking and the page views, all of that information. We virtualize it, and we allow that to be very accessible to the owners of that data to kind of get insights from that.
All right, so we're going to talk about strategies for partnerships and how you do it. You've worked at big companies, Oracle, Adobe, partnership development and all of that.
Sure.
You've worked at some smaller companies. And now what would be very I think informative is how do you go about crafting this strategy and how do you go about executing?
Yeah, that's a great question. And in particular to kind of like there's, obviously 20 years ago, startups were kind of starting to become a thing during the dot-com days, right? But like today, there's such an explosion of all these different SaaS companies out there and starting up. And you're starting to see a rise of a lot of these companies investing in partnerships and channel strategies. And the biggest thing that I've discovered and kind of learned, in battle scars to prove it over the years is like when you come on board to a company and you start to kind of think about partnerships and strategy, you really have to get buy-in from across the board with everyone. The executive leadership, the product team, the marketing team, the sales team, and really kind of, get their commitment to kind of embrace kind of a partner ecosystem. If one of those don't accept it or embrace it, you're definitely going to have some challenges down the road. And
there are different types of partners, right? There's the technology partner, the reseller, the integration kind of partner. Like it's not just one type of partner.
Right. And depending on the business model and what solution that, the SaaS company is offering, that could be, technology companies could be more important than an integration company, could be more important than kind of like a solutions or consultant agency. So it's all kind of comparative. The biggest thing that you really need to dig into is, and I don't want to underemphasize this too much, but in regards to kind of really understanding kind of like the business model, the customers, the company is trying to go after. Before you do any type of partner strategy and planning and ecosystem, you really want to kind of dig into that and understand the markets, who you're going after, what's an ideal customer profile, what's success to them. And then you have to really dovetail into the partner strategy, right? And you look at that whole customer journey of like those companies acquiring, and converting, and making them successful and getting them to be kind of raving lunatic fans of your solution. You have to kind of figure out where partners fit along each step of that journey and really kind of enable them and embrace them and work with them to be successful in those spots.
But let's talk about the current program you have. What is the partnership strategy, and how do you go about executing that?
Yeah, well, and Heap it's such a fun stage right now for me as in my role in doing this, because partnerships. I was brought on about 14 months ago. And there was, we had partnerships, we had some other kind of relationships. I would call them relationships more so with different companies, but really had that ability to kind of take and embrace and work with the whole leadership team to kind of build up this whole partner ecosystem. So a lot of it was just even kind of like coming to market and saying, hey, we're open, and creating kind of marketing content on our own kind of website, saying, hey, we have a partnership strategy. Here's some of the partners. We bifurcate between solution partners, which are traditionally services and consultancies, and then technology companies, the companies we have kind of other software solutions we integrate with.
I see.
And so, in developing that, that was just kind of a simple form of kind of creating some foundational stuff. And then from there, it's really kind of, it's selling and working with the executive team. We're going through, and companies often of this size, we go through kind of like the exercise of like, hey, who's our ideal customer profile? Who are we selling to? What markets are we going after? Is it SMB? Is it mid-market? Is it enterprise? And that's really going to drive kind of like, hey, where are the best relationships and what types of companies are involved with those types of customers as well. So until you define that, and, you just kind of really emphasize of kind of like, hey, these are the better partners to kind of do this. And
what are some of the common mistakes that you've seen, lessons learned that you want to share?
Oh, how much time do we have? There is, the biggest thing, as I was talking about earlier, is really getting buy-in from that as early as possible with the executive team. And, there can be a lot of anxiety internally especially with kind of, when you work traditionally you work a lot with the sales managers and sales teams. There can be a lot of anxiety in getting kind of quick wins and quick results. So patience and being kind of very kind of, really kind of direct and kind of just focused on building that up. Because it does take 6 to 12 to 18 to sometimes 24 months to really get the machine going where you have really solid technology partners and solution partners out there. So as long as you're kind of like have a very good defined strategy as it relates to the business and the customers you're going after, you start to identify and work with partners and make them successful. Because it's like anything, it's a relationship. This is going to take some time and effort to really kind of build up some good relationships with companies that you may have from past experiences, worked with before. Some of the companies I've worked with before at Adobe and Omniture, I was able to kind of bring into the fold and work with them, which was great. But there's going to be other new partners that you kind of have to embrace and kind of work in that whole ecosystem as well. But patience is a virtue. Keep very focused on kind of the partners that are very relative to make your customers successful. Because you don't want to make the biggest mistake is just, everyone wants to go after, for example, the big consulting firms to kind of like, hey, these are billion-dollar firms and they sell billions of dollars worth of software. And it's like, all right, well, we're a startup in a very small company. Even some of the bigger startups or the companies that are about to go IPO don't have practices with these firms.
I see.
So you have to be realistic about what you can do with those companies and, start kind of, with like-minded other companies to kind of build up that ecosystem.
Okay. Let's talk about maybe the tools that it takes to scale. This kind of sales enablement tools, for example.
Yeah.
Like, I think that when you talk about partner sales enablement, you're saying it should be very similar to your internal sales enablement for your own direct sales force, right?
That's right.
Your thoughts on that?
That's right. Yeah, we're going through kind of a similar process of just kind of really, we have a sales enablement person, we have training and certification, we have product marketing team. So we're going through this whole process of looking at kind of like, hey, what's the solution we need for our sales enablement? And we're actually looking at your solution as well. So, which is great.
You.
Yes. So excited about that. But, the biggest thing is like, companies are focused on kind of enabling their sales team, but they also, that is 100%, all of that content and information should be shared with your partners, right? Where it's relative. So a lot of that stuff is like when you're creating the stuff within mind, Some of the stuff may be very sensitive, probably less than 10% you would want to not share out there if it's competitive information you want to be sensitive about. You just have to be smart about that. But the other side, you should be openly, wholeheartedly sharing that with your partners in mind. And going through that whole process with them and making sure, and even incorporating some of your best partners in there to, hey, get their tests. Because it's easy for a sales guy who's internally working at a company to check the box or say, it's like, yeah, that's great. That's good enough information. But unless you take that out to a partner or someone else and saying, hey, can we go through this content? What's missing? You're probably going to miss a lot of the stuff that you need to kind of make sure that your salespeople are very well aware of, if not your partners. And then eventually you want to use that for your customers as well.
Yes, and we're seeing that with some of the clients like, VMware, VMC, for example.
Yeah.
You've got gated material for just internal company salespeople. Then you have partners. It's the next group of people. And with VMware, they actually have it where it's public. So anyone who wants to learn more about the different VMware products can learn and go through that middle funnel and get converted over to hands-on lab.
That's great.
And I think that's one of the features that I think is important to kind of look at is the kind of openness where you can put it for internal partners or even the public to consume the content and have the analytics to track for conversion.
Yeah, that's great. That's great. You bring up a good point, and one of the things that I really love about Heap and what we do is we provide kind of people with, the software for free to use. Mm-hmm. So we have a free version of the software that we use, and we're very transparent about really the more we can help educate and kind of go out there to market and make everyone aware of your solution and give them as much tools that they can consuming on their own to be successful. Companies like VMware is a great example of doing that. It's hey, they're going to be more embracing of your brand and your product, and probably better educated of kind of providing solutions for that, right?
Yes. Okay, so now with the $55 million funding, what is exciting ahead for you?
Well, I think it's exciting ahead. There's some recent announcements. We have some really key kind of executive leaders that are going to be joining the company.
Okay.
So more will be shared of that in the coming months from the company. So very excited about the leadership team. Ravi and Mateen, the founders, are great. Some of the smartest guys I've ever worked with, and just very embracing of this whole kind of partner ecosystem and the channel ecosystem. And but there's going to be some interesting things. Obviously, executive leadership is going to be key, but also expanding kind of more of our footprint outside of primarily North America to other markets as well.
Okay.
So, but we're going to be very frugal about the money. So not a lot of big .com parties ahead of us.
Okay, wonderful. Well, it's been great to have you share about Heap and what's happening on the partnership side of some of the best practices and lessons learned.
Great.
Thank you very much, David, for being on the show.
Awesome. Thank you, Jessica.
There you have it, folks. Take it up with Jessica Lee, David Saxon from Heap.